All right, let's jump right in. We're going deep today with the story of the HMS Wager,
The wager.
a British warship that wrecked in 1741 off the coast of South America.
Oh, this one's a good one.
It is, and we've got some amazing sources that give us all these different perspectives on what happened.
Yeah, multiple accounts of this. It's
Exactly.
going to be fascinating.
So this deep dive is really going to be about leadership.
Leadership.
What happens to people when they're under pressure?
Psychology.
Yeah, human nature, and I think also we're going to see how slippery truth can be.
The nature of truth.
Yeah.
Multiple perspectives, you know?
Right.
Truth is a tricky thing.
So to set the scene, it's 1741.
1741.
The War of Jenkins' Ear is going on,
Okay.
and Commodore George Anson is leading a squadron of British ships
Right.
on this daring mission
Daring, yeah.
to capture a Spanish galleon.
Oh, so there's treasure
It's
involved.
full of treasure, yeah.
Exciting.
And one of the ships under Anson's command
Right.
is the Wager.
The wager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Led by Captain David Cheap.
Captain Cheap.
Now, Cheap, from what I gather from the sources, was really ambitious.
Ambitious.
He came from humble beginnings in Scotland.
So he's worked his way up.
Yeah, and he saw the Navy as his chance to, make a better life for himself.
Opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, escape debt
Yeah.
and maybe achieve glory and riches,
I mean, that's what a lot of these guys
Yeah.
were after, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was a tough life otherwise.
Right, but as we'll see,
That's
ambition
the-
can be a double-edged sword.
Oh, especially on the 18th century, see?
Absolutely.
Right.
So before we even get to the shipwreck,
Yeah.
can you give us a sense of what life was like on board these ships in the
Wow.
18th century?
Oh, it was grim.
Grim.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think
Yeah.
the ships themselves were basically just
Yeah.
wood prime real estate for shipworms, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know, constantly battling decay and infestation.
It's amazing they stayed afloat at all.
Yeah, it really is.
We romanticize this age of sail, but it was rough.
It was rough.
And then there's the crew.
Right.
You've got seasoned sailors,
Yeah.
but also volunteers,
Mm.
pressed men,
Yeah, anybody they could get, basically.
and even young boys.
Kids,
Some as young as 6. Can you imagine?
6 years old.
6 years old on a ship.
Wow.
Yeah, learning to climb the rigging.
Oh, I saw that in one of the sources.
Yeah,
It
didn't
talked
you?
about these little kids, you know,
Yeah.
clinging to the ropes, tiny hands.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then you've got, on top of all that,
On top of all that.
the ultimate test,
Right.
rounding Cape Horn,
Cape Horn, yeah.
the tip of South America.
Notorious.
Notorious, right. I mean, the sources describe these relentless storms, massive waves.
Yeah. The sailor's nightmare.
A nightmare, yeah.
Like the worst possible place you want to be.
Yeah, one of the sources, John Byron,
Iron?
who was a midshipman on the Wager.
Young guy, right?
Yeah, really young.
Yeah.
He described riding out a hurricane up on the mast.
Clinging on for dear life.
Yeah, he said it was like being on a giant pendulum.
Wow.
And, of course,
Of course.
you can't forget about scurvy.
Scurvy, the scourge of the sea.
Yeah, it wasn't just fatigue.
No, no, no.
Brutal.
Horrible.
Yeah, I mean, men dying while walking on deck.
Yeah.
The sources describe their bones like turning black from the inside out.
It's just awful.
Awful.
Hundreds dying just trying to round the horn.
Yeah, just horrific conditions.
So you've got this backdrop,
Right.
and then the wager wrecks.
A wreck.
It wasn't just one storm, though, right?
No, it was a series of them.
Okay.
Battered by the weather, weakened by scurvy.
Yeah.
The ship's driven onto the rocks off the coast of Patagonia.
Oh, so this is like a desolate, storm-battered island.
Inhospitable.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Chaos.
Just absolute chaos.
Yeah, this desperate scramble for survival.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Even in the midst of all this chaos, right?
Right.
They try to recreate some semblance of naval order.
Really?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So they're shipwrecked,
They're shipwrecked.
but they're still trying to cling to that structure.
So is Cheap trying to lead?
Oh, Cheap is definitely trying to assert his authority.
Okay.
He holds a court-martial for theft.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like they're still
Trying to
Yeah.
maintain some kind of control
Control
in this
and control.
insane situation.
Yeah. And what about Bulkley?
Bulkley, yeah.
He's a key figure here.
A T figure.
The ship's gunner.
Yeah, and a devout guy, meticulous record keeper.
Right. His journal is one of the main sources we have.
A crucial source.
Yeah, and it often contradicts Cheap's version of events.
Oh, that's interesting.
So already we're seeing these different perspectives.
Multiple perspectives.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what really happened.
It makes you question everything.
Right, who to believe.
Exactly.
So you've got these survivors trying to
create order
on this desolate island.
on a desolate island. But they weren't alone, were they?
Not quite.
Who else was there?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
You have the Kaweskar,
The cows are.
the indigenous people of the region.
Okay.
And this encounter is fascinating.
How so?
Well, you've got these British sailors,
Right.
ravaged by disease, barely surviving.
Yeah.
And then you have the Kaweskar,
Yeah.
who are masters of this environment.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They navigate these treacherous waters in their canoes.
Wow.
Their women were expert divers.
Divers?
Yeah, they could stay submerged for like crazy amounts of time.
It makes you wonder who was really civilized.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
whose definition of civilization are we talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the Kaweskar were thriving
They were.
in this environment.
Yeah. Their skills in hunting, fishing, navigating, it was astonishing to the British.
So you had this clash of cultures.
A clash of cultures, a clash of survival strategy.
Yeah, but this fragile coexistence,
Right.
it couldn't last forever, could it?
Well, unfortunately, no.
What happened?
Things start to deteriorate on the island.
Oh,
Food becomes scarce.
mm-hmm.
Suspicions grow, tensions escalate,
Yeah, I can see that happen.
accusations of hoarding.
So it's like they turn on each other?
In a way, yeah, the pressure just gets to them.
Okay, and then there's this guy, Mitchell.
Mitchell, the carpenter's mate,
Right, what about him?
he becomes a real problem.
A problem.
Yeah, as tensions rise, he forms this breakaway group.
So it's like a mutiny within a shipwreck.
Basically, yeah, they're scavenging for themselves.
It's like something out of Lord of the Flies.
Right. The veneer of civilization just crumbles.
And a key turning point in this whole descent
Yeah.
is the incident with Captain Cheap
Cheap.
and Midshipman Cousins.
Oh, Consums.
Yeah.
The one who liked his drink a little too much.
Yeah, so what happened?
Well, Cheap ends up shooting Cousins.
He shoots him.
Yeah.
Wow. So was this like a justified act?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cheap claimed Cousins was inciting mutiny, but others suggest it was a rash act.
Oh, interesting.
Fueled by paranoia, maybe a personal grudge, who knows?
So even in this desperate situation.
Even then,
Yeah.
personalities clash, power struggles, biases.
It shows you that human nature
Human nature
doesn't just disappear.
it doesn't get tough.
It might even get amplified.
And this incident with Cousins,
Right.
it really shatters what little order they had left
It's
as
ridiculous.
distrust spreads.
Fear takes hold.
And this sets the stage
Sets the stage
for a mutiny.
for full-blown mutiny. This mutiny, though, it wasn't just like a sudden thing.
Yeah.
It was brewing, you know?
Right.
All this tension, the dwindling supplies,
Yeah.
this desperation.
I mean, thousands of miles from home,
It's like
eviction, disease, the elements.
It's like a pressure cooker.
It really is.
It makes you think about morality,
Right.
loyalty, obedience.
When you're pushed to that edge.
Yeah, what happens to those things?
Yeah. So how did this mutiny actually happen? Well, it wasn't the whole crew turning against Cheap.
Okay.
There were two main attempts to escape the island.
Two?
Yeah, Bulkley. Remember Bulkley? Always organized.
Yeah, the meticulous guy.
He leads one group. They build this makeshift ark.
An arc.
Yeah, trying to brave the Strait of Magellan.
Oh, wow, that's a dangerous passage.
It's incredibly dangerous.
Yep.
But Bulkley, deep faith,
Right.
believed God would guide them.
Okay, so that's one group.
Yeah, and then you've got Cheap,
Okay.
along with Byron and some others.
Right.
They try a separate escape.
In smaller boats.
Smaller boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both groups are facing hardship.
Incredible
Yeah.
hardship.
Starvation, exposure, the elements,
It's really a choose-your-own-adventure.
with incredibly high stakes.
incredibly high stakes.
But only one group mutinies.
Right, it's Bulkley's group.
Bulkley's group.
They arrest Cheap,
Wow.
accuse him of murder.
For the Cousins incident.
Yeah, they say they fear for their safety under his command.
So they abandon him?
They leave him on the island.
It's hard to believe.
A captain abandoned by his own men.
It makes you wonder about Bulkley's motives.
Right, was he really acting for the good of the group?
Or was it something else?
Ambition. A power grab.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
That's where these multiple narratives come in.
Right, we've got Bulkley's account, Cheap's account, Byron's account.
Each one with a different spin.
Yeah, trying to justify their actions.
It makes you realize,
Nice.
even in history, there's
Yeah.
always interpretation.
Bias, spin.
It makes you question.
Can we ever really know the full truth?
Yeah, the full truth,
And then you have the official response,
the court-martial.
right, investigating the loss of the ship.
But they seem to kind of avoid the mutiny issue.
Why would they do that?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
This was the age of empire.
Right. Britain, naval power.
They needed heroes,
Yeah.
not mutiny scandals.
So it's like they swept it under the rug
It's possible, yeah.
to protect the image.
The image of the empire.
It makes you think how often that's happened throughout history.
Oh, I'm sure it's more common than we know.
Yeah. Inconvenient truths getting buried.
To serve a bigger narrative.
And speaking of contrasting narratives,
Yeah.
while the wager is struggling,
On that desolate island.
Anson is off having his own adventure.
On the other side of the world.
Right. Still on that quest for the treasure galleon.
And you know what? He
What's that?
actually finds it.
He does.
Years of hardship, setbacks, disease.
Yeah.
But Anson captures the Covadonga.
Spanish treasure ship.
Full of silver.
So he succeeds.
He achieves his goal.
It's almost ironic.
It really is.
Anson's the hero, capturing treasure,
Right.
while his own captain is getting mutinied against.
It's abandoned on a deserted island.
It really highlights the
Yeah.
power of perspective,
Yeah.
how different stories can come from the same events.
And you know, Anson's triumph,
Yeah.
that becomes the story everyone remembers.
The one of the history books.
The wager disaster with all its messiness.
Yeah.
It fades into the background.
The Empire needed its hero.
They did.
Anson, brave, determined.
Victorious against all odds.
It's a powerful narrative.
It's a lasting narrative.
But we can't forget those other narratives.
Right, the ones that don't fit the mold.
The stories of struggle,
Compromise.
human nature under pressure.
Those stories are important too.
They challenge us.
They make us think.
So let's shift our focus to the individuals.
Okay.
What happened to these men after the wager?
Well, believe it or not,
What?
Cheap, even after being abandoned,
Yeah.
accused of murder,
Yeah.
he rebuilds his life.
He does.
He even returns to a position of command in the Navy
Wow.
with Anson's support.
Anson's support.
He eventually captures the Spanish treasure ship himself.
No way.
Yeah, he gets the wealth and recognition he always wanted.
A storybook ending.
On the surface, maybe.
But I imagine the scars remain
Oh, absolutely.
from that island.
They called him
What?
the captain who shot a man.
Wow. Years later.
The past has a way of sticking with you.
It really does. And what about Bulkley,
Bulkley.
the mutineer?
Well, he returns to England,
Right.
publishes his journal,
Trying to clear his name.
trying to shape public opinion,
Yeah.
but it's met with scrutiny, debate.
People didn't believe him.
Some did, some didn't.
So he's never really exonerated.
No, not completely.
And that's what's so fascinating about this story.
What's that?
There's no easy answers.
No clear-cut heroes or villains.
It's messy, it's complicated.
Human nature is messy.
And truth,
Look at Sif.
it really is. It's easy to judge, right, from where we sit.
Centuries later, yeah.
But we have to try to put ourselves in their shoes.
In their world, yeah.
The dampness, the hunger.
That constant fear
Yes.
of disease, of never being rescued.
It must have been unimaginable.
Psychologically devastating.
And then beyond the physical hardships,
Yeah.
the moral dilemmas,
Right. The choices they had to make.
right and wrong.
Self-preservation versus loyalty.
It's all blurred.
Blurred lines.
Bulkley, for instance,
Bulkley, yeah.
deeply religious,
Yeah.
convinced himself that mutiny was the only way,
Save everyone.
or Byron
Yeah, Yim Byron.
starts out condemning the mutiny,
Yeah.
but then finds himself sympathizing with Cheap.
Even helping him escape.
It's fascinating.
It is.
These weren't just ideas.
No.
These were life or death decisions
Real consequences.
made under immense pressure.
With limited information.
And the impact of those decisions,
Aye.
it lasted long after.
Long after the wager sank.
It makes you think about the ripple effect
The ripple effect, yeah.
of our own choices,
Our choices.
how they affect others.
Sometimes in ways we can't even imagine.
The wager story, I think,
It reminds us
that history isn't just dates and events.
it's about people.
It's about people,
Their choices.
their choices,
Actions and consequences.
and how they navigate.
The extraordinary.
I want to touch on one more thing. The idea of truth.
Truth.
There's no single truth,
Right.
just multiple perspectives.
Each one with a different view.
It challenges us
It does.
to think about our own biases,
Our own perspective.
how they shape our view of the world,
It's a call to be open,
to be open,
to question,
our assumptions.
and to realize that
Right,
truth
so-
is complex.
It's
It's nuanced. The wager gives us this window
the window.
into humanity under pressure
Leadership, conflict, survival.
and perspective.
It's a story that still matters.
It does.
It reminds us
About human nature.
and what it means to be human.
Well said. As you keep digging into these sources, Think about whose story resonates with you the most.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned about leadership, about survival,
Yeah.
about the choices we make when things get tough?
And most importantly,
What does the wager tell you about yourself
yeah, what can we learn
from these men?
from their triumphs and their failures?
Even though it happened centuries ago,
The echoes of their choices.
still ripple today.
And they offer valuable insights for us all.